Thank you so much, sir. At the outset, very, very warm greetings to all distinguished panelists and all the participants who are connected for this webinar, either through the Zoom or Facebook or YouTube. I sincerely want to congratulate, first of all, to the Alumni Association of JNU for organizing this webinar on the topic of the self-reliant India aspirations and opportunities. Given the clarion call given by our Honorable Prime Minister for Atmanirbhar Bharat, the topic of the webinar is, I think, it's very, very apt. And given the situation the whole world is going through, and given another fact that we had just about day before yesterday, we had International Day of Biodiversity on 22nd of May, and then we'll be having World Environment Day on 5th of June. So the timing of these discussions could not be more perfect. JNU is my alma mater, and where I have spent around 7 of my best years of my life. So it's definitely a matter of great satisfaction and pleasure for me to remain connected with JNU through whatever means possible. So my sincere thanks to Alumni Association of JNU giving me this opportunity. I'll be trying to talk about environmental perspective of the whole recovery process which we are gearing up to take in post-COVID-19. It may be a mere coincidence that theme of this year's International Biodiversity was Our Solutions Are in Nature. And then again, theme of the World Environment Day, which is going to fall on 5th June, is biodiversity. And the whole of this year 2020 has been touted as super year for biodiversity. So I'm sure that when this whole thing must have been, under planning stage, this COVID-19 was nowhere. So that means it has all been building up for quite a while, which we, as supposedly the most powerful species of nature's creation, could not foresee. Allow me a few minutes to talk about importance of biodiversity, more so when we plan for recovery from this pandemic, so that you are able to appreciate what I want to talk. So when we talk about biodiversity, it's a common thing that we just talk about flora and fauna. It's not just flora and fauna which we see around us on daily basis. It's actually biodiversity of all types, be it genetic diversity, be it species diversity, be it ecosystem diversity, be it cultural diversity, so on and so forth. We humans are just a very, very tiny mini part of it. As one of our Upanishad, which is called Ishavasya Upanishad, which says humans are just a small part of the biocentric world. Plants and animals are no less. So it's not just the foundation of life which we are talking about, but it is the ecosystem services that it sustains that are also very essential for human connection, well-being, and culture. So in other words, biodiversity, when you talk about biodiversity, it actually supports the very, very things that makes our lives beautiful. It allows us to grow the ingredients we need for our culturally important meals. The biodiversity at the same time allows us to have variety of dals in our food platter, variety of vegetables, variety of rices, variety of fruits and whatnot. And at the same time, it gives us space for our rituals, recreation, and reflection. Landscape biodiversity, if you see, it allows us to enjoy the beaches, mountains, deserts, etc. It inspires us to create art, music, and tell stories, which all of you during this lockdown had time to enjoy, which you had not been able to enjoy it for quite long. So in countless ways, it sustains the natural and cultural connections that ties us together. We hardly realize and recognize that all of us have been utilizing hundreds of products each day, which have their origin to biodiversity around us. Lives and livelihoods of millions of people are linked with this, this biodiversity in different sectors. We talk about forests, talk about fisheries, talk about agriculture, where there's so much of agrobiodiversity in India. We talk about tourism. We talk about pharmaceuticals, which just my previous speaker was talking about. So if you talk about our Indian society, it has been agriculture based for thousands of years. Even today, the agriculture sector provides livelihood to more than half of the population. So if you talk about in one line, is the richness of life and human survival. And our life is intimately tied up with the existence of this very biodiversity, and the current crisis where we are all in together is just a testimony to that. So let us spend a couple of minutes on the basic reason of this whole issue. Is it just virus? Everybody knows about it. Just one virus. Part of the same biodiversity, which got transmitted from bats and pangolins to humans and caught the supposedly most powerful creation of the nature, that is humans, unaware. We are completely caught unaware, and there is a broad consensus among the scientists across the world that zoonotic diseases like this one are closely linked with the loss of biodiversity and forest, and of course illegal wildlife trade. You can imagine the power of nature that even the so-called developed countries till now not any immediate solution to the problem. Some of the researchers have shown that fatality rate is higher in the areas where air pollution was high. Some researchers show that men are more vulnerable than women. Some say adults more than 65 years are children less than 12 years more vulnerable to this disease. There are so many other studies going on around the world to understand the cause, reason, and solutions, and as well as its impacts. But the sum and substance, if we talk about the entire discussions, that we do not have immediate solution to this whole problem. The impact of this pandemic, which we are all in together, so huge and so complex that it will continue to be analyzed for years to come. But story does not get over there. As per available data, only 14% of the known human pathogens are viruses. These constitute 44% of it, pointing to the growing threat of viral diseases. And of the viruses that have emerged in over 4 decades, about 75% have a zoonotic origin. So you can simply understand that why these things are getting transmitted from the humans. Of course, we are encroaching onto their habitat. So although due to better medical care and drugs available to combat infections and vaccines, they have helped us in lowering the mortality rate. However, it has been reported that outbreaks of infectious disease worldwide have increased steadily since 1980s. So you can easily correlate our actions with the results, with the situation we are in. So, and that is why the old adage still holds true that prevention is better than cure. But what prevention of what? Prevention of reasons which cause this, prevention of reasons which have caused many such diseases in the past, and prevention of reasons which may cause many such diseases and pandemics in the future. And here comes the importance of biodiversity, because biodiversity was and it does remain the answer to a number of challenges facing humanity, in spite of all the technological advances and all the created. So the major takeaway from all of this is we have got to manage our ecology in better manner and help nature to help us. Forced lockdown has resulted in improved air quality, improved surface water quality, reclaiming of habitats by the wildlife. And the best part is, while we were locked down, we actually had some time to observe the nature around us and enjoy it. But this is not going to be the scenario always. So we have to prepare. Now our Honorable Prime Minister has given a call for Nirmar Bharat. So we have to pull up our socks and work for realization of his dreams and vision. But what will be our path to recovery? That is the most important question which we are discussing here, and which all of us need to ask ourselves rather than someone else telling us. As we all know, that 2030 agenda for sustainable development, which was adopted by United Nations members states in 2015, that provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet, and now and into the future. At its heart are 17 SDGs, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, developed as well as developing, in a global partnership. And they recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. So any development without meeting these sustainable development goals will be incomplete and meaningless. If we see the 17 SDGs, majority of them are linked to ecosystem services that we derive from different types of biodiversity around us. So be it the SDG related to no poverty, related to good health and well-being, clean water and sanitation, responsible consumption and production, and so on and so forth. So we all have to see that this recovery is comprehensive. Government has been working to facilitate ease of business, but it should come along with ease of living. We have been talking about sustainable development, but we have to now work towards sustainable development for sustainable future. A lot of work has been done by Ministry of Environment in recent years to streamline the clearance processes. And now the onus is on the industries to be responsive as far as compliances are concerned. And they should actually move towards a regime of self-regulation. Ministry is working on making the industries accountable for non-compliances, and it is for sure that compliances and monitoring going to be very, very strict in place. We should take pride in the fact that in spite of just 2.5% of global land area, our land supports 17% of world's human population, 18% of cattle population, and even with all this, I tell you, we are able to hold on to 7 to 8% of globally recorded species. The simple reason because biodiversity conservation and to nature has been very much part of our Indian ethos. Even the philosophy of Indian agriculture has been to conserve and keep intact the natural resources while using them to the extent necessary. Today, all development programs worldwide are centered around this philosophy only. 2030 UN Agenda for Sustainable Development has also accepted that the contribution of culture is important. So we should see our biodiversity as our strength and support this system and our culture as simplest tool to strengthen that. Once we realize that, we'll work towards a future which is nature centric, as the biodiversity and nature and environment is no longer topics for big celebrations and discussions only. Now they have become necessity for us. So in the end, my request to all of us, all who are connected, that let us reaffirm our faith in power of nature and work for a comprehensive recovery towards Atmanirbhar Bharat in a true sense. Thank you all, and Jai Hind.